So, we are on a series on the Sermon on the Mount, as it says behind me. And today, we kind of get to take off properly into it. So, we had a couple of introductory times, and today, they're like going on the taxiway on the plane. You know, when you kind of leave the terminal and you're going along and you get all the pre-flight checks, you get the safety announcement, all that sort of thing. And we're at the end of the runway, and this morning we're going to take off. And I imagine that, like when you go flying, there will be a mixture of emotions in the room. For some people, like me, who are nutters, will be like, yes, take-off time. I'm ready for this. There will be other people who are the complete opposite and thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. Are we going to fall out the sky? How's this going to work? And there'll be other people who are in a happy medium. But wherever you are this morning, as we enter this passage of Scripture together and go through it over the next year or so, I want to tell you this morning that the Sermon on the Mount is good news. It is good news. And that is what we're going to read this morning. So if you've got your Bibles or your iPads or your phones, if you want to turn to Matthew chapter 5, top tip for the next few weeks, go to Matthew 5. Matthew 5. I'm going to start at verse 1, and we're going to read all the Beatitudes together. It says, "Now when he," that's Jesus, "saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, 'Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." That's what we're going to focus on this morning, that first verse 3. But I think it'd be helpful to know what the Beatitudes means. So I did a quick look up of what the word Beatitudes means, and it means complete happiness or utmost bliss that comes from being blessed. These are sayings, these are verses that lead to complete happiness and utmost bliss. They describe those things. And so as I said, we're going to look at blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. But before we go any further, I think it would be really helpful to understand what the word blessed means in this context, because it appears 9 times over in the Beatitudes, so it's probably helpful to us to know. And in order to understand that, the first thing we need to realize is the Bible was not written in English. Many of us think it might have been, but it was not written in English. The New Testament was written in Greek. Most of us read in English. Some of us will read in Spanish. Some of us will read in Farsi and other languages. But the New Testament was written in Greek, so we are reading a translation of the Bible. And the problem is, with English, the words can mean like multiple things. And so therefore we need to understand what we actually mean when we say it. Okay, so the New Testament's written in Greek, which itself is probably a translation of what Jesus actually said, because he probably spoke Aramaic, which is a regional dialect of Hebrew. It's kind of like if you imagine it's like Yorkshire versus the Queen's English, kind of, or Scouse versus the Queen's English. I'll just put that in there for Steph. It's a regional dialect. But most Jews would be bilingual. So most Jews would be talking in Aramaic to their friends and that sort of thing, but they would be able to read Greek as well. It's like some of our friends from other countries who, when they're around us, will speak in English just to, make us feel better. And they'll speak in English to us, but then when they go home, they'll speak in Spanish, or they'll speak in their other dialects from various nations. So the point is the Jews would just kind of switch, and they'd read Aramaic, and they'd read Greek, and they'd speak in Aramaic. And so I'm just going to focus on the Greek today. I could go into the Aramaic as well. I'm not. Just going to focus on the Greek today. But there are two words for blessed in Greek. The first word is eulogeo. Eulogeo. Can you say that after me? Eulogeo. Okay, that word is the word that we use when we want to bless someone. So when we're praying for someone, like we were praying for Trevor and Alison last night, we were saying, Lord, would you bless them? That's what we're praying on them. Lord, would you eulogeo them? Would you bless them? Would you make things go well in their lives? Would you do that? So could it be, in this moment, that Jesus is asking the Father to bless the people that are poor? That would seem reasonable, wouldn't it? Jesus would be saying, God, would you bless the people that are poor? I can see before me that they are poor in spirit. Lord, would you bless them? But that's not what he's saying. Because that's not the word that's used here. The word that is actually used is the word makarios. Say after me, makarios. Which means something different. So the first thing to know about makarios is, first of all, the literal translation of it is happy. And in some older translations, you might, if you're sat on Bible Gateway, like some of us preachers do, and flicking through the translations to find the one that says the words you want, or the words you can remember normally, it's like, I know that's in one of them. But you flick through, you'll notice that for some of them, it will say the Beatitudes, it will say the word happy. The problem we have with happy is a bit of a kind of momentary thing, isn't it? Like, I was happy yesterday that my football team won. I would not have been happy if they'd lost. But that's a momentary thing. Today, I've probably just realised that we're not going to win anything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it's a momentary thing. Happiness, when we think about being happy, when we look at someone, we go, oh, they're happy, aren't they? It's normally because something's happened and it's triggered that emotion in them. But I think we have to be careful using this in the context of the Beatitudes. Because if you read the second Beatitude, blessed are those who mourn. Happy are those who mourn. It doesn't quite sit right, does it? Because we know when people mourn and they're going through those emotions, that happiness, although it comes out at times, is not the thing you would say about someone in that moment. The thing is that makarios is not that emotional instant happiness, that on the surface happy. Makarios refers to a state of happiness, a joy that comes from within. Something that maybe it's not always seen on the surface, but it's within them. Deep down. It's that deep down joy. It's that I'm going through this thing. And for that, no matter what's going on, you might say, oh, yeah, that's a happy person. When you see someone and you think they're living a happy life. And they're not always happy, they're not always smiley, but don't you? You know when someone's living that kind of life. So other ways of translating makarios might be how fortunate, or how flourishing, or, as the Bible Project has put it, this is the good life. It's that thing where we look at someone and we say, I can see within them, they are fortunate, they are blessed. So the poor in spirit, Jesus is saying, are already blessed. Which sounds odd, doesn't it? But stick with me, because the second half of the statement gives the reason why. Blessed, Makarios, are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. There's the blessing. They are blessed because theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Jesus isn't saying, make yourself poor so that you can have the blessing. The poor are already in that place of blessing. They're already in that place of Makarios. They're already there because theirs is the kingdom. I found this example helpful. There's a man, his name is Mr. Jones, and he owns a big farm. And he has a daughter, and she's a happy daughter. And she's going to inherit the farm. So we could say, blessed is the happy daughter of Mr. Jones, because she will inherit the Joneses' farm. She is already the happy daughter. She's not working to earn it. She is going to inherit it. And she lives her life in that knowledge, in that inheritance. It is a key element to a happy and secure life, that not only her, but everyone knows that the farm will be hers. The first statement affirms the happy state that already exists, and it allows her to live in that right now. And this isn't something we extra to add to our task list. You know, we've all got task lists, haven't we? And we've started doing one for our house, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger when you start going through it. This isn't an extra task to add to our task list, but this is a recognition of who is the greatest in the kingdom of God. And this is important because it frames how we see the Beatitudes. Jesus is stood there on the mountainside looking out to all these people, some of whom are very poor, and he says, they're already blessed. This isn't the gospel of works. This is the gospel of grace. So, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does blessed are the poor in spirit mean? Well, in the Gospels, we have 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and each Gospel has its own angle. It's written to its own group of people, but across the Gospels, we read the same passages, the same stories in different Gospels. And the Beatitudes comes up in the book of Luke. And Luke chapter 6, verse 20 says this, blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who are poor. Matthew says, blessed are the poor in spirit. But Luke says, blessed are the poor. So there's 2 conclusions we can come to here, potentially. Is Matthew just being a bit super spiritual? You know, like those people that they're just a bit super spiritual. Or, more likely, is that Luke wants to draw our attention to the poor. And if you read through Luke's gospel, you will discover that it is the gospel that mentions the poor the most. Luke wants to draw our attention to the poor. Those who do not have. In the land of Israel, at that moment, it was ruled by the Roman Empire, and basically they were under this massive oppression. And the poor were everywhere. The poor didn't have any money, they didn't have any land, but they were also poor in health, poor in emotions, poor in their relationships, feeling downtrodden. Throughout Scripture, there is a call constantly, isn't there, to look after the poor. We read it again and again, starting from the law back in Leviticus all the way through the letters of Paul. We read to look after the poor. And Jesus is repeatedly seen again and again and again with the poor, looking after the poor. looking after the marginalized. In this upside-down kingdom that Jesus is presenting, it is these people, the poorest, the people who have no influence, the people who have no power, the people who have been forgotten by society. It is these people that Jesus says will receive the kingdom. Not the people who we have put in power, not the people who have spent all their lives earning loads of money, not the people in the big houses, not the people in government. It is the people, the poor, that will receive the kingdom of God. But could it be more than just what we see as poor? Because when Matthew talks about poor in spirit, what is he talking about? Let's turn to Matthew 19. There's a story which I think will help us here. Matthew 19. It's a story about a rich young man. In verse 16, it says, "Now a man came up to Jesus and asked, 'Teacher, what good thing must I do to get eternal life?' 'Why do you ask me about what is good?' Jesus replied. 'There is only one who is good. If you want to enter life, obey the commandments.' 'Which ones?' the man inquired. Jesus replied, 'Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not give false testimony. Honor your father and mother, and love your neighbor as yourself.' 'All these I have kept,' the young man said. 'What do I still lack?' Jesus answered, 'If you want to be perfect, go, sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come and follow me.' When the young man heard this, he went away sad, because he had great wealth. Then Jesus said to his disciples, 'I tell you the truth, it is hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.'" It is hard for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. See, the rich young man is doing everything right. He's obeying the commandments. He's got his task list and he's ticking off, right? Not done that today. Not done that today. Not done that today. Right, I'm good. Can I enter the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus says, you need to do that. You need to give up your wealth. You need to give up that which you value, that which you rely on, that which you've put your hope in. You need to give up that. And then you need to put your trust in me. You need to have a spirit that says, I can't make it on my own. This is what it means in Matthew's gospel when Jesus says, the poor in spirit. Now, throughout the Gospels, when Jesus says stuff, because he's talking to the Jewish people who knew the Old Testament, he often will use language that they understand, and the words he's using will refer to bits of the Old Testament. And when he's talking here about the poor in spirit, scholars link it to Isaiah 66, verse 2, which says, "These are the ones I look on with favor, those who are humble and contrite in spirit, and who tremble at my word." In other words, those who know that without Jesus, they can't go on. This is why the kingdom of heaven belongs to the poor. Because they know that without God, they're nothing. They know without God, they won't make it. When you don't have enough finance, if you're a person of faith and you don't have enough finance, you're like, God, I don't have enough finance to go today. God, I need you to provide. You rely wholeheartedly on God. But in that place, in that moment, there is a great opportunity for God to move. There is a great opportunity to see the kingdom of heaven revealed. I love how the Message translates this verse, this Beatitude. It says, "You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there is more of God and his rule." With less of you, there is more of God and his rule. And that's what Jesus was asking the rich young man to give up. He was saying, you need to have less of you, less of those things which you rely on, and more of God and his rule. Now, there are some this morning in that category who are literally stood there saying, God, we need you. It might be financial, it might be health, it might be emotional, it might be in a relationship, it might be in other circumstances in your life, and you feel poor, and you are saying, God, I need you. Well, yours is the kingdom of heaven. But I believe this is a life that God calls us all to, this reliance wholeheartedly on him. The problem most of us have is we've heard a lie that society gives us. A lie that says you can make it on your own if you do the right things. Get a good education, get a good job, maybe get a house, get a family, get a car, keep working, keep doing things that will give you a good foundation. You can make it on your own then, you can do your own thing. And we can start out by relying on God, but then as we get more and more and more, we can end up forgetting. It's a bit like the kid with the bike. So when a child's learning to ride their bike, the parent's hand's like on the saddle. Remember when my kids were learning to ride the bike, and it's just like, I'm holding on for dear life, because I know the minute I let go, you're just going to go junk. And so they start kind of scooting along, and you're holding on for dear life. And then gradually, as they get their balance, you start to just ease the pressure in your hand. The blood starts to return to your hand. And then gradually they start pedaling, and gradually they get faster to the point where you're starting to run behind them. And then eventually you let go and they go. And it's a bit like that sometimes in our lives. We can be there and we're like, God, we need you, we need you, we need you, we need you. Oh, I've got this, I've got it. Yes, I've got it now. And you're off, and you're cycling around the big bit of the park, miles away from your father, looking and going, aren't I good? I did this on my own. Pride comes in. Look at me, look what I've accomplished. We stop relying on God and rely on the next thing. If I get that next career move, I get this amount of money, which enables me to buy this thing, which will make my life better, will make me more secure. Our prayers become less about our intimacy that we've been invited to this morning. They become less about that intimacy with God and more about, God, I need that thing. Would you make it so that, Lord, would you make it so that I get that next great car that will enable me to sit in comfort with my heated seats, and then I will come and worship you. Heated steering wheel was that? I've never had a heating steering wheel. But the thing is, we become more and more dissatisfied. We turn on the telly, there's an advert. We turn on our social media feeds, there's an advert feeding us. We look at other people's lives. Oh, they've got it made. I need that. That will sort it. We become more and more dissatisfied. It just doesn't work. Jim Carrey, the great philosopher, otherwise known as an actor, one of my favourite actors when I was growing up, he suffered some mental health issues later on in his life, after he'd become quite successful from doing some very funny movies. And he did an interview a few years ago, and after he kind of come out of some of these mental breakdown issues, and he said this. He said, "I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer." All you have to do is look at celebrity and how many things break down when people seemingly get everything they want. See, the poor in spirit are those who have learned that without God, everything is nothing. They tremble at the word of God, they revere it, they put their hope in it and it alone. They listen and they obey the voice of God. They obey the promptings of God. When God says, give that, they give it. When God says, go there, they go there. They are satisfied for nothing less than Jesus. Their confidence is in him and him alone. By grace alone they stand. And it may be, just maybe, that when you allow yourself to stand in that place, that God tests you. When you come before him and say, I'm here, I want to give you everything. He tests you. We sang this morning, one of the songs, I give you everything. When you stand in that place, expect God to test it. Just like the rich young man. So blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We live in this place of the now and the not yet, the place between Jesus' death and resurrection 2,000 years ago and the kingdom of heaven coming in its fullness. But we live in that place where we can see the kingdom of heaven break through today. The poor in spirit are those who can pull on the resources of heaven now. They can pull it in. They can say, God, we believe you, we trust you. And we are also those who the kingdom of heaven is revealed in. Luke 4:18, Jesus says this, the Spirit of the Lord is on me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. Jesus calls us to do the same. It was prophesied over us last week, actually. And he calls us to do the same. To show the poor and the poor in spirit that the kingdom of heaven is there. It's available to them. And that's why I wanted to show that video at the start, because all through the week we have people coming here. Some of them are literally poor. They literally have nothing. And they come here and they find a home, they find love, they find compassion, they find food. Some of them are emotionally, some of them are going through things like Emma. Some of them are just like, I just need someone to hold my child. We get to reveal the kingdom of heaven. When those people come here, they're not just getting a nice cup of tea, they're getting a bit of the kingdom of heaven. We get to reveal the kingdom of heaven to a world that is poor, to a world that is hurting, to a world that is powerless and disillusioned. As systems and institutions crumble around, we get to reveal the kingdom of heaven. Do you know this year there are 4 billion people in this world will go to the polls to vote this year in their various countries? And yet so many people are disillusioned. So many people are disillusioned with their governments. So many people disillusioned with what's going on. In the USA, they are literally describing it as the election that no one wants. People are just completely disillusioned with what's going on around them. They feel powerless. I've got to vote, but I don't want that or that. Mental health facilities are closing down because of funding gaps and that sort of thing. We know of that in our town. There's a crisis going on, but do you know what? Mark Sayers, who's a prophet in our time, said this. He says, crisis always comes before renewal. Crisis always comes before renewal. So what if this is our time? What if this is time for the kingdom of God to break in? What if this is time for the kingdom of God to move, for things to people to be transformed, for people to see Jesus in all his glory? But what if we have spent so much time being comfortable that we haven't realized? Could it be that in the shaking, God is calling his church to a new level of holiness, to a new level of reliance on him, that his kingdom is revealed on every street, in every school, and in every workplace? Could it be that God is calling us to rely on him more and more and more so that we show our friends this is what it means to trust in God. This is what it means to trust in the kingdom of heaven. Maybe God is bringing us to a place of weakness so that we can reveal his strength to a broken world. For his kingdom is eternal. His kingdom will last. It will outlast all things. It will outlast the institutions around us. It will outlast our bank balance. It will outlast our relationships. It will outlast all things. His word is faithful, and his love is never ending. What if this is the time for blessed are the poor in spirit, because ours is the kingdom of heaven.